Not every what-if is about collapse or catastrophe. Some of them are just the world quietly deciding to stop making sense, and humans adapting, as they always do, in ways that are either ingenious or completely absurd. This video has 13 of them. The science ones will genuinely change how you think about the planet. The funny ones will make you wish the scenario was real, and the gravity ones fall somewhere in between, depending on which direction is currently up. 13 what-ifs, starting with something that could solve global hunger, and landing somewhere involving your dog, your lies, and your hair. Let's go. You step outside this morning, and your body starts converting sunlight directly into energy. You haven't eaten since Thursday. You don't need to. Full photosynthesis in a human body would require surface area many times larger than human skin currently provides, so the first adaptation is visible. Skin darkens significantly and becomes slightly textured to maximize light absorption. Hunger as we know it disappears on sunny days. On overcast days and through winter, humans become lethargic, irritable, and genuinely unwell. Northern countries, including the UK, are in near constant low-energy crisis for 6 months of the year. The entire food industry collapses within a generation, but so does global famine. Agriculture still exists for cloudy climate populations and for taste, not survival. And the underground economy? Artificial UV lighting becomes more valuable than most things currently traded on any market. Would you trade food for sunlight? Humans running on sunlight changes how we consume the planet. The next scenario changes what the planet itself does, overnight, without asking. The Amazon doubled in size while you were sleeping. Satellite images confirm it this morning. Scientists have no explanation. An Amazon twice its current size would absorb carbon dioxide at a rate that begins reversing climate trends measurably within years. Global temperatures stabilize faster than any technology or policy had managed. Rainfall patterns across South America, West Africa, and parts of Europe shift significantly because the Amazon is one of the planet's largest rainfall generators. Agricultural land in parts of Brazil disappears under new canopy. Entire ecosystems that were on the edge of collapse get new territory. But here's what most people don't consider: the biodiversity explosion. A doubled Amazon means millions of undiscovered species, and potentially thousands of new compounds, organisms, and biological processes that science hasn't catalogued. It's the single greatest pharmaceutical and ecological opportunity in human history. Most of it unreachable. Would doubling the Amazon fix climate change, or just complicate it differently? A doubled Amazon gives the planet more breathing room. The next what-if removes something humans have always relied on for their own: the privacy of a thought nobody else can hear. Every thought you have is now audible to everyone within 3 meters. You discovered this at 8:47 this morning in a Tesco. The first hour is genuinely catastrophic. Everyone around you hears the running commentary your brain does on strangers' trolley choices, the way you mentally calculate whether a queue is worth joining, and the thing you've been thinking about your coworker that you've never said out loud. Therapy sessions become redundant because everyone already knows. First dates end in the first 10 minutes, or go remarkably well because there's nowhere to hide. The people who fare best are the ones whose inner monologue is mostly benign observations about weather and sandwiches. The ones who fare worst are anyone who has ever stood in a lift. Politicians last approximately 4 days before resigning collectively. Parliament goes silent for the first time in its history. What would people hear right now if your thoughts were audible? Drop it in the comments. Audible thoughts remove the filter between what you think and what you say. The next scenario removes another linguistic safety net entirely and replaces it with a question mark. You wake up, and every sentence that comes out of your mouth is a question. You have no idea how this happened. Neither does anyone else. Ordering coffee takes 4 minutes and involves questions you didn't know you needed to ask. Would I like a large? Is oat milk what I'd want? Statements you've made your entire adult life are now structurally impossible. You try to tell someone you love them. What comes out is, wouldn't you say that I care about you significantly? Which is either more honest or considerably less romantic. Work meetings, already questionable, become entirely comprised of questions. Nobody can provide a definitive answer to anything. Productivity collapses, but the quality of conversation improves dramatically because everyone is suddenly being forced to think before they speak. Teachers become inexplicably good at their jobs. Arguments get very confusing very fast. What's the first thing you'd try to say? Language breaking down makes everything more complicated. Physics breaking down makes everything, literally, go in a different direction. Starting with the most fundamental force holding your chair to the floor. Gravity dropped to half its current strength overnight. You weighed yourself this morning and the scale read the same number. But when you tried to stand up, something was different. Half gravity means your body weight still exists, but it presses down with half the force. Movement feels effortless. Jumping reaches twice the height with the same effort. The first thing that fails is architecture. Buildings designed to carry the load of standard gravity are now overbuilt in some ways and dangerously unbalanced in others, because materials behave differently under changed forces. The atmosphere begins thinning over decades because gravity is what holds it close to Earth. Within a century, weather patterns shift as the atmosphere becomes less dense. But the immediate human experience? Water pours more slowly. Fires burn differently. Heat dispersal changes. Sports records are all broken within a week. And the aerospace industry, which spent a century fighting gravity to get things into orbit, suddenly finds the problem half as hard. What's the first thing you do in a half-gravity world? Half-gravity reshapes the world over decades. The next scenario is more immediate and considerably more disruptive to anyone who forgot to sit down before 8 a.m. Every morning at exactly 8 a.m., gravity flips for 10 minutes. It's been happening for 3 weeks. Everyone has adapted, mostly. The morning commute is now conducted in 2 phases, pre-flip and post-flip. Anyone who forgets is briefly on the ceiling. The UK's building industry has retrofitted ceiling handles across every public space. Cafes stop serving anything hot between 7:55 and 8:10. There is now a legal requirement to be seated and secured before 7:58. The people who adapted fastest, rock climbers, gymnasts, and anyone who was already working from home and could just wait it out horizontally. Insurance claims for the first 2 weeks were the highest in the industry's history. One London commuter has used the flip to dramatically reduce his overground journey time by a method his employer has asked him not to repeat. Breakfast is now a pre-8 a.m. activity without exception. What would you do differently in your morning routine to survive this? 10 minutes of reversed gravity is inconvenient. The next scenario is the planet doing something inconvenient on a considerably larger scale. All 1,500 of them simultaneously. Every active and dormant volcano on Earth erupted at 3:14 a.m. this morning. All 1,500 of them, at once. The immediate death toll from lava flows and ash is significant, but not the primary threat. The sky is. Volcanic ash from a single major eruption can lower global temperatures by several degrees for years, what scientists call a volcanic winter. 1,500 erupting simultaneously produces an ash cloud that blocks sunlight on a scale the modern world has never experienced. Agriculture begins failing within months across the Northern Hemisphere. The aviation industry grounds indefinitely. Engines cannot function in ash clouds of this density. Sulfur dioxide emissions on this scale acidify rainfall across entire continents. The areas that survive best? Equatorial regions with direct sunlight that can still penetrate partial ash coverage. The areas worst affected? Exactly the densely populated, agriculture-dependent northern countries that have the least experience going without. Which part of this scenario would hit your daily life first? 1,500 volcanoes is the planet reminding us who's actually in charge. The next what if is humans trying to rebalance things on their own terms, starting with payslips. New legislation passes overnight. Every person earning above £5 million annually must complete 1 full year of minimum wage employment before they can earn above that threshold again. The first roster of celebrities assigned to their placements is published on a Tuesday, and the internet has opinions. One major pop star is placed in a distribution warehouse in Swindon. A prominent actor gets a 0-hours contract at a call centre. A tech billionaire is assigned to a supermarket self-checkout monitoring role. Specifically, the lane where the machine keeps saying, "Unexpected item." By month 3, something changes. Some of them are genuinely good at their jobs. A few become outspoken advocates for better conditions in industries they didn't know existed at this scale. 1 or 2 quietly ask if they can stay on after their year ends. The supermarket billionaire, specifically, has not complained once. He hasn't been asked why. Which celebrity would handle this the best? Drop your prediction below. Celebrities doing real work for a year turns out to be more revealing than most documentaries. The next scenario reveals something even bigger. Specifically, what the planet looks like without 71% of itself. The ocean is gone. Not empty, gone. The water has simply ceased to exist. You can see the ocean floor from the coast. The ocean floor, exposed to open air for the first time in billions of years, releases gases trapped in sediment, some of which are toxic in concentration. The water cycle, which is driven almost entirely by ocean evaporation, collapses within weeks. Rain stops. Rivers fed by rain begin drying within months. The oxygen production the ocean is responsible for, approximately half of all the oxygen on Earth comes from ocean phytoplankton, falls to 0. The remaining half, from land plants, cannot sustain breathable oxygen levels for the global population long term. Fish, marine mammals, and every ocean-dependent ecosystem, gone. The exposed ocean floor is the largest desert on Earth, covering 71% of the planet's surface. It is also immediately the most contested geopolitical territory in human history, because it contains resources nobody has ever been able to reach. How long do you think humanity would last without the ocean? No ocean means no water cycle, no oxygen, no coastlines as we know them. The next scenario is also about something fundamental to British survival, but considerably more local. The Pub Hours Reform Act passes on a Wednesday. Every pub in England, Scotland and Wales must close by 6 p.m, starting Monday. The first Monday is chaos of a very specific British variety. Quiet, muttered, devastatingly passive-aggressive. People begin drinking earlier. Lunch at the pub becomes a 4-hour institution. Office workers start clocking out at 2 p.m. on Fridays to make it work. Someone opens an establishment technically classified as a private dining experience at 6:01 p.m. and charges 4 times the price. It is always fully booked. The government's stated reason for the act, reducing late-night disorder, backfires immediately, as disorder simply migrates to 5:45 p.m. Pre-drinks, previously a pre-game to the pub, become the main event. Supermarket alcohol sales triple. The British public, faced with a restriction on a deeply held cultural institution, responds in the most British way possible, by technically complying while doing absolutely everything to undermine the spirit of the law. How would you adapt your routine to this? The British relationship with a pint after work survives legislation. The next What If offers something even better than a Friday drink. The Friday you back. Every Saturday and Sunday, you age backwards. Monday morning, you return to exactly where you were Friday. It's been happening for a month. Nobody has found a downside yet. The first weekend, people notice their joints feeling better, skin looking clearer, energy levels returning to something they haven't felt since their early 20s. By the third weekend, people are engineering their schedules around the reversal. Nobody is doing anything stressful on Saturdays. Why age through that? Mondays become the most rested day of the week because everyone has just spent 48 hours biologically rewinding. The wellness industry collapses overnight. Every supplement, every cream, every anti-aging product made redundant by the weekend. Gyms see an unexpected surge because people are using their youthful weekend energy to do things their weekday bodies struggle with. The only problem anyone has found: any injury sustained on a Saturday heals by Monday, but also means you were briefly younger when you got it, which the insurance industry has found very, very difficult to categorize. What would you do on a weekend if you were guaranteed to be physically younger? Aging backwards on weekends is convenient, controlled, and entirely manageable. The next bodily function that changes the world is considerably less predictable. Every sneeze teleports you exactly 10 feet forward. It started this morning. You are currently outside the building you are trying to enter. The first adaptation is spatial awareness. You stop sneezing near staircases, near traffic, near the edge of anything. Hay fever sufferers become the most feared people in shared spaces. One bad afternoon and they've cleared an entire open-plan office. Allergists become the most important medical professionals on the planet. Antihistamines are nationalized in 3 countries within a month. Someone sneezes mid-presentation and reappears in the stationery cupboard. The London Underground becomes a particular problem. A sneeze between stations has variable outcomes depending on which direction you're facing relative to the tunnel. Someone sneezes at the top of a tall building, and the physics of forward relative to the ground becomes a very pressing philosophical and practical question. The answer, unfortunately, is literal. Where would your last sneeze have taken you? Drop it in the comments. Sneezing you into unexpected locations is at least involuntary. The next What If gives you a choice, but makes sure everyone around you can see whether you made it honestly. You told a small lie this morning. Nothing significant. Your hair is now bright teal. The first hour of awareness is spent cataloguing every lie you've told this month and what you'd currently look like. Most people are operating in at least 3 colours by the end of the first day. I'm on my way, adds a stripe. That looks great, adds another. I've read the terms and conditions, adds a hue so vivid scientists name it after the phenomenon. Politicians walk out of press conferences looking like they've lost a bet at a paint factory. First dates become remarkably efficient. Job interviews become the most honest conversations the corporate world has ever had. The most pristine, unchanged hair on Earth belongs to a 7-year-old girl in rural Iceland who says exactly what she thinks about everything and has done since she could speak. She is now a public figure. What colour would your hair be right now? Be honest, drop it below and follow for more every Sunday. We assume honesty is a choice. Turns out it just needed the right incentive structure. 13 scenarios. Half of them are genuinely unsettling science. Half of them are ridiculous. And the line between those two things, if you look closely, is mostly just scale. The Amazon doubling and the pub closing at 6 p.m. are structurally the same kind of what if. What happens when one rule changes and everything built around it has to adapt? The difference is consequences. Planetary systems adapting have civilizational consequences. British pub culture adapting has parliamentary ones. Both are real. Both reveal something true about how the things we take for granted are actually holding. That's July done. 31 what-ifs, 3 compilations. The channel is running, and August is already being written. Subscribe so you're there for it.